about the coronavirus tracking app that you have developed. How does it work? Who are the parties involved?
The goal on everyone's mind is to resume life as quickly as possible after the COVID-19 pandemic. So our app helps us get there faster without compromising privacy. What we do is we're using an advanced privacy-preserving algorithm to alert users who have had a risky exposure, even if the person they were exposed to was asymptomatic. So what this means is users will be notified by the application if they've been exposed to COVID-19, and this allows them to self-isolate and avoid infecting other people. So this helps contain the pandemic and speed up the return to normal life, which is our goal and everyone's goal here. The key is that by being alerted early, we can lower the risk of serious consequences as users can seek medical help sooner and get tested sooner before having the chance to spread the infection. So essentially, the application sends a notification to people who are in contact. What we are as a team, nós somos uma equipa portuguesa, brasileira e Áustria. We have a PhD researcher on our team. We're connected with BRI, which is Portugal's largest collaborative innovation consultancy, and our CEO has a proven track record who's already launched 2 companies. And currently we are in contact with the Portuguese government to move forward and launch our application in Portugal.
What has been done to comply with privacy laws? What user data is being tracked and stored?
Absolutely. So the most important thing is that we do not track your location nor your movements. So we don't touch GPS location. We don't track your identity, your name, your date of birth. We don't track the identity of the people you come into contact with. We don't take your telephone number, and we don't have your email address. So having said that, how do we use our algorithm to provide that contact tracing value? We use Bluetooth Low Energy. Our app uses a completely randomly generated code that does not contain any information about you or your device. In addition, this code changes every 15 minutes to ensure that it cannot be reversely traced back to you. All the data stored on your smartphone is encrypted. All the connections between the app and the server are encrypted. And all the data, whether stored on your phone or on the server, is deleted when no longer relevant.
What kind of data can be extracted from the app? How can it help the medical and scientific community?
That's a really interesting question, and it sort of opens up this perspective of there's a range, a spectrum of COVID-19 tracing applications. On one hand, you have applications that preserve maximum user privacy, maximum user security, and on the other hand, applications that preserve maximum information for government and health authorities. The situation is that they are a little bit opposed to each other, which is to say, if you have a lot of information for the health government, you may be also compromising a little bit of user security. So on this spectrum of COVID-19 tracing applications, we had to make a decision. Do we wish to prioritize giving information to the government, or do we wish to prioritize user safety to ensure user adoption? It was a hard choice. We obviously wish to support the government, but we chose to prioritize user safety so that people will actually use the application and hence sort of stall the development of the pandemic.
How is your app different from similar apps that have been developed in other countries such as China?
Well, this brings us back to that spectrum. So if we're here on preserving user privacy, China is on the other opposite end of that spectrum, in where they're basically grabbing as much information as they can, your GPS, your social security number, your identity, everything they can, they will track. So the benefit there is that indeed the government has access to a lot of information, but the negative consequences are a complete destruction of user privacy and ultimately user respect, in the sense that in China, there's an element of being forced to use these applications, whereas we believe in people feeling comfortable so that they can make the choice to use these applications.
In which countries is your app available at the moment?
Currently in Slovakia, which has been met with great success, and we're in talks with Portugal, Mauritius, Madagascar, and Brazil. to launch the application.
How has the application contributed to the fight against the coronavirus so far?
The application in Slovakia points to, sort of shows the story here. Slovakia has had the lowest deaths in the entire sort of pandemic, and it's definitely amongst the lowest in terms of infected in the Eurozone. The application has helped to track and identify clusters of infected people so that these clusters can be isolated early. And again, this goes back to the theme that early identification is the key, speed is everything. Outside of Europe, we can look at South Korea, Singapore, and Israel. These are top countries outside of the EU who have used similar applications, and it's been met with great success.
How do you plan to improve the app to make it more practical and effective?
The biggest obstacle in all of the COVID-19 tracing applications is adoption, which is to say people need to download the application in order for it to be effective. Research indicates that between 30 to 60% of the entire population of a country must download an application in order to have effective reduction in pandemic numbers. What we're doing is that we can completely jump this problem and not need the entire population to adopt the application for it to be effective. The way that we do this is integrating with Apple and Google's second phase API. So this is a technology that is being released in the future, quite soon. And what it does is that people don't need to download an application, which especially for the elderly generation, it's quite hard to get them to sort of download the application and set up. So what this new technology that we're integrating with very soon enables is that all phones will receive an automatic update from Apple or Google. And in this update, when they wake up in the morning, a little pop-up will come up on their phone. Your phone has been updated with the new COVID-19 tracing technology. Would you like to enable it? Yes or no? So you'll have the option. And then if you tap yes, you will automatically begin tracking your contact with COVID-19. So the key difference is that whereas before users would have to seek the application, go to the App Store, have that process, after all they have to do is pick up their phone in the morning and it will say, would you like to reduce your risk of being of contracting the virus? Yes or no? And then you tap yes. And you're having that service. So to summarize that, we're integrating with that service directly in our application. So we're sort of jumping that biggest obstacle, and that's by far the most practical and effective plan that we have to improve the efficacy of our application.
Is the app free?
100%. It's completely free. We, and hopefully many people, don't believe in profiting from a pandemic. It's free.
How has been the response to the app so far? Can you tell us how many people have downloaded it? How many users do you have?
The first iteration of the application has received more than 100,000 downloads in its first few days out of a population of 5.5 million. So we're now and presently looking at a significant portion of the population using it.
Many people are skeptical of tracking apps. How do you see the situation when it comes to health-related tracking apps? Are they less concerned? How do you think trust can be increased?
So I think people have every right to be concerned about privacy, especially with technology companies. We can look at the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal that happened quite recently. Technology companies do not have a good track record with respecting user privacy. We believe that technology is like fire, which is to say fire can burn down a house or it can cook for an entire family. Technology can be built that cooks for a family and protects users. It's just that normally there is no profit incentive to respect user privacy in that way. So we're taking that stance. We're building our application from the ground up to prioritize protecting user privacy. This can be done with technology, and it is being done by ourselves. It's just that in the larger global context, most technology companies have chosen not to build privacy-preserving technology.
What steps have you taken so far to launch the app in the countries that you mentioned?
In Portugal, we've had multiple calls with representatives from the Portuguese Health Ministry, and we are currently deciding next steps in order to bring the app forward. In Brazil, we've also been speaking with health representatives from Panama and São Paulo. And via a Dubai connection, we're also in contact with folks in Mauritius and Madagascar, currently in talks.
You mentioned that the app has been a success in Slovakia. Do you think the country can be a good example for others when it comes to regulating and using such apps?
Well, yes. So in March, it was the top third country after South Korea and Israel in terms of corona management. We can look at Germany and the UK. They're also using their own applications that use a similar technology to our own. We definitely think that contact tracing applications are a good tool in this arsenal to fight against the pandemic. But they have to be built correctly. And I think the key there is having people feel comfortable with using these applications, which is our primary focus.
In your opinion, are new regulations needed in the EU to deal with situations like this?
Absolutely. And I think the key is it depends how the app is developed. So this comes back to that spectrum of COVID-19 applications, privacy respecting, and lots of privacy tracking. I think that if you're building from the start an application that is privacy protecting, regulations are not so necessary, they're not so crucial. Of course, they are important in a long-term vision, but there is no violation of privacy from these applications. However, on the other end of that spectrum, the applications that choose to track much more data, they are putting the user at risk. And in those situations, I think that strong regulations should be put into place in order to prevent those types of applications from causing harm to users.
I'm done with my questions. Is there any additional comment that you would like to make?
Yeah, I mean, I wish to reiterate that it's important that everybody feels safe using these technologies. Our primary focus is sort of educating users to ensure that they understand that, yes, technology can disrespect your privacy, but also technology can be safe and it can respect your privacy, but it must be designed that way. So we do wish to go against that Silicon Valley trend of sucking up as much data as possible, because we believe that trust with users is the most important thing, because if they don't trust the app, they won't download the app. If they don't download the app, there will be no efficacy, and we will delay resuming normal life after the pandemic.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.